You talk a lot about, I mean, there's so much to talk about in this book, but one of the chapters that I think is so important and probably pertains to everybody in here is about the shadow work. And you talk about really kind of looking at all of oneself, right? And looking at your shame, looking at your perhaps your lust for power, your sexuality, the kind of monster that might be in you that you've attributed to somebody else. And really, you can't really inhabit your most powerful, authentic self unless you do what you call innervism, right? And you have said in the book that kind of your inner work has been very often much more difficult, much more powerful than your activist work, and yet they go hand in hand. So can you talk a little bit about how you describe innervism and activism, and how, if we actually want to embody a full-scale leadership style, we have to do both?
Great. Well, often when you think about inner work, meditation, self-care, you kind of feel like, oh, it's peaceful. I'm going to a spa. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to calm down. But that's all wonderful work, and we need it. But for me, the most powerful inner work I have done is getting courageous enough to really look at myself, to really look at how sometimes I do power differently, and I am warm and compassionate. But sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, as Nietzsche says, be careful when fighting.
Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not, or she does not, become the monster.
That's right. And I tell a story in the book about shadow work, and I think stories are a good way to explain shadow work. Otherwise, it gets all heady and Jungian, because it is a Jungian concept. You know, Jung said that there's a person inside of you that you don't want to be. And so you just keep ignoring it, pushing it down, pretending you're something else. And that can make us sick. It can make us very hypocritical, not fun to be around. So when you look within, especially at the parts of yourself that desperately want to grow and change, it's very liberating. So for women and power, and this whole thing of changing the story of the genders so that men don't have to always be the strong warrior and women don't always have to be the loving caretakers, and we can mix it up. I've had to look at myself. You know, I tell this story about my husband where I want him to be vulnerable. I want him to talk and to be more sensitive, and I kind of like throw it out to him often to do such a thing. And then sometimes when he is that way, I don't like it. That inner patriarchy in me that does want the man to save me and always be strong and never show his weaknesses, I kind of punish him for it. And it's a dynamic that I think quite a few women can relate to, and certainly a lot of men can too. It's like, what do you want? You want me to be soft and sensitive, or you want me to be the always warrior? So if I can own that in myself and have a real honest conversation over and over with my husband, sorry, I know I'm doing that. It's like magic, you know, when you own your bullshit in an honest way, and don't beat yourself up for it, and don't constantly be looking for it. But when it's real, and when it's getting in the way of changing the story, to look at yourself, admit it, and vow once again to do better.
Amy on Facebook, what are some specific tools we can utilize to help nourish our innervism? And as Elizabeth said, the back of the book is really tools for inner resilience and your inner life. But go ahead, and if you could answer that.
Well, you could answer it too. There are two kinds of innervism. There's the kind that are just deeply nourishing, and we need to be nourished. We all need to be nourished, men, women, everyone. And those tools, you know, we read so much about, whether it's exercise or food or touch or meditation, silence, nature. All of these are so necessary. And then there's another kind of innervism, which is more psychotherapeutic, learning to know how to set boundaries, learning to know your own shadow and how you're blaming other people actually for something that is yours to own. There's so much power in taking away blame and owning stuff and becoming the leader you are waiting for.